Well, turning now to the Newsmax crime report, police officials in New York say juvenile crime has exploded in recent years. And of course, much of the blame lies with the system's inability to prosecute young offenders or even violent young offenders.
Yeah, now some are saying the problem, it could get worse if Zohran Mamdani becomes the next mayor. Newsmax crime correspondent Jason Mattera is here to explain that for us. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Mark and Charla. So, yeah, the perpetrators and the victims of gun violence among young people have surged recently, which is exactly what happens when you pass a law that says juvenile delinquents cannot be prosecuted as adults. And naturally, Zohran Mamdani fully supports that law.
I think we've even seen with Raise the Age that there are fewer arrests of younger New Yorkers than there were prior to the implementation of that legislation.
Raise the Age is one of many progressive experiments in New York that has made it more difficult to put violent criminals behind bars.
It has become a central talking point of New York State Democrats that we have too many people in jail and prison. And so every policy initiative that's been enacted over that time has kind of been geared at lowering those numbers for the sake of lowering those numbers without even really grappling with the reality that a lot of people who are locked up need to be there.
Under this so-called reform, juvenile offenders are shielded from adult criminal court and instead are cycled through family court, owning the land right back in the community.
Seriously bad things come from a consequence-free environment. And right now, juveniles who commit serious crimes in New York City are living in a virtually consequence-free environment.
Police say Damian Calhoun and several other teenagers opened fire in a shootout caught on camera last month, a hail of bullets ripping through East Harlem streets before Calhoun was arrested for attempted murder. A year earlier, the then 17-year-old had already pleaded guilty to attempted murder, but reportedly walked free under New York's Raise the Age law.
Whether it's progressive prosecutors or sentencing reforms or other kinds of structural decriminalization efforts, all of those things work to do one thing, which is lower the transaction costs of committing crime and raising the transaction costs of enforcing the law.
And with Mamdani's plan to have social workers and transit ambassadors respond to certain 911 calls, the transaction cost for committing crime would drop even lower.
Zohran Mamdani's approach to public safety is going to be an absolute disaster for the city of New York.
Just to underscore how dangerous this Raise the Age law has been for New York City, the police commissioner says that juvenile shootings has surged 200%. They've surged 200% since the law took effect. So I'm sure that Zohran Mamdani's social worker task force will have the problem sorted out in no time.
You know, Jason, this is the same thing that's happening in Washington, D.C. You have these 13, 14, 15-year-olds committing these crimes because they're asked to do so by the violent gang leaders who are older. They know the laws. They know that if the 13-year-old commits the crime, they'll be right back on the streets to do it again. It's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's strategic on their end. The gangs know that if they get a 13, 14, and 15-year-old, that they'll be out. I mean, it's strategic. And yet the politicians know it, the police know it, and yet the courts know it, and still nothing is done.
Yeah, it's wild.
All right. Thanks.